Regents Review number 25. Question number 1 asks you to determine the average rate of change for the two functions shown below, but they only want you to find it between the following 2 points. Now they don't tell you the actual points, they only tell you the x values of the actual points. So for each function, you have to determine the y values for these points before you can use the rate of change formula. So for the first one, it's pretty simple because the table of points is completely shown. So our first point would be -2, -7. And our second point would be 2, 9. So now all I need to do to find the rate of change for function f, called f of x, is to compute y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And once I do that, I'm going to get 16 over 4, also known as 4. So f of x, average rate of change, that's what the acronym down here stands for, would be 4. Now let's do it for function g. For function g, I can either compute the inputs and outputs myself, or I can use the table on my calculator. But in order to use the table on my calculator, I need to tell my calculator what equation I want a table for. So I'm going to enter this equation into my y equals button, and then I can look at the table. So I want the points for -2 and +2. So for -2, the y value is 1, and for +2, the y value is 16. So I'm going to write that in here. Let me double check. 1 and 16. Now I can compute. y2 minus y1 and x2 minus x1. That gives me a rate of change of 15 over 4, which is 3.75. Question number 2. For the function f of x equals 2x squared minus 3x plus 5, find the following. These are inputs, or replacements, for the letter x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the function, but I'm going to erase and replace all of the letter x's. I'm going to replace them with a 4. Now I can compute it myself, or I can pick up my calculator and simply type this expression, 2 parentheses 4 squared minus 3 parentheses 4 and plus 5. The calculator can do all that work in one step. So if function f has an input of 4, the output is 25. And that's the final answer. Remember, this is like a narrator. It's just telling you what's happening. You don't need to get the letter f by itself. Let's take a look at the second question. If I use function f again, but this time I erase the x and replace it with a -3, let's see what we get. I'll pick up my calculator again. I'm going to copy and paste it because I'm a little bit lazy. And instead of a 4, I'm going to type a -3. And over here, I'm going to delete the 4, but now I need to insert. So notice I press second delete. And when I insert, it will push everything else over. So function f, when it has an input of -3, it has an output of 32. Question number 3. Let f of x equals 6x minus x squared and g of x equals 2x minus 5. On the axes provided below, draw and label the functions. All right, so function f of x needs a table of points that fit on the graph. So does g of x. It also needs a table of points that will fit on the graph. table of x and y values. Actually, this is a linear function. If I want, I could even take a shortcut. I could put my y-intercept at -5, and then I could follow my slope of +2 over 1. So I could actually skip the table for g of x, if I want. Let me try that again. But I can't graph f of x by hand. So I'm going to take my calculator back out, and I am going to enter into the y equals button this new function, which is 6x minus x, minus x squared. Oh, geez. 6x minus x squared. And now when I look at the table, I see a lot of points. But I only have a graph that goes from -10 to +10. So I'm going to pick points that will fit. -1, -7, 0, 0, 1, 5, 2, 8, and 3, 9. Then I also have 4, 8, and 5, 5. And I could keep going. 6, 0. And I've ran out of room, so I'm going to stop there. I'm actually going to graph this one in blue. -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, -7, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 5, 2, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3, 9, 4, 8, 5, 5, 6, 0, 7, -7. Now that makes sense because this is quadratic. So it makes sense that it is shaped like a U, and I picked enough points that I could see that whole U shape. All right, the question says, at what values of x do the two functions equal each other, right? When are the points the same? When do they overlap? That's these points here. They overlap when x is -1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and when x is 5. So because it's two values, I'll put some squiggly braces around it. Now, if I wasn't sure, I could go to my calculator here. I could type in the other function into the y2 button, which is 2x minus 5. And when I look at the two tables side by side, I'll notice those repeating numbers here. See that? -7, -7, that's a match. And then down here, 5, 5, that's a match. So when do the matches happen? They happen at -1, and they happen at +5. Question number 4. Which property is illustrated here? This is the distributive property of multiplication. That is how this side has parentheses and this side does not. Number 5. Which interval notation represents the set of all numbers from 2 to 7 inclusive? Inclusive means to include. So that means that 2 is included in the solution and 7 is included in the solution. So if I had a graph, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then that means that this is solid because it's included, and this is solid because it's included. So that means I need 2 brackets. Question number 6. The value of the x-intercept for this graph is which number? Well, an x-intercept is a part of the line that touches the x-axis. And every x-intercept has the same number in the y position, a 0. Since intercepts always have a 0 in them, then I can find the x-intercept by replacing the other letter, in this case y, with a 0. So 2x minus 0 equals 10. 2x equals 10, which means that the x-intercept is 5. Question number 7. Solve for g. So I need to get these g's on the same side. So I'm going to use my inverse operations. I'm going to add 9 to both sides. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Final answer is 4. Don't forget to do a check step. A check step is when you rewrite the original equation, but instead of writing the variable, you write the answer that you found. And if the left and right sides are equivalent, then you know it checks out. Question number 7. Which verbal expression represents 2 times the quantity n minus 6? You'll notice I said 2 times the quantity. That's how you read these symbols. 2 times n minus 6 would look like that. That's what this says. What's missing from the first and fourth options is reading of the parentheses. These are read the quantity, the quantity. So options 2 and 3 have that phrase, but the way that the inside expression is translated is different. Although this can be read as n minus 6, it can also be read as the quantity of 6 less than n. This phrase is a backwards phrase. Anything in front of it will come after the minus sign, and whatever comes after it will be in the front. n less than 6 would look like this. Therefore, the correct answer is 2. Number 9. Romano has 3 brothers, and their ages are consecutive even integers. That's a sequence that looks like this. Find all 3 ages such that, this means here comes the equation. The sum of the first brother and 4 times the second brother, the second brother is x plus 2, is 128. So x plus 4x plus 8 equals 128. 5x plus 8 equals 128. 5x equals 120. So x equals 24. So find all 3 ages, 24, 26, and 28. And that concludes Regents Review 25.